you have these reasons that we experience burnout, right? I want you guys to identify what it is for you. If you are in this category of like, I'm gifted, I'm really good at something, I know what I want, I'm clear on that, right? I'm not in this, I don't know my purpose era, but I'm in this season of, I'm very clear, but I am tired, I'm exhausted, or I've experienced burnout, or not in burnout, but I haven't changed enough habits and behaviors to avoid it in the future. Right? If this is you, then I want you to identify which one, right? Do you feel pressure to stay married to an identity you've outgrown? Do you have this history of having extraordinary endurance that's psyching you out? Are you one of those people who revert back to unhealthy behaviors when you feel pressure? Unhealthy behaviors like people pleasing or avoidance or taking control. So think about where you may fall and what might be at the root of your experience of stress and burnout. And then let's get into the solution.
Optimal health is not a privilege, it's a right. However, unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of health challenges today can be attributed to lifestyle. This includes our physical activity, the quality of our relationships, stress, purpose and fulfillment, and of course, our diet. But what if there was an alternative? What if we could prevent and combat these health challenges with lifestyle changes before pills and procedures? You are listening to the Plant Protocol podcast with yours truly, plant-based health and business coach, and now the forever voice in your head, Lisa A. Smith. It's time to come get this health.
So radical obedience is the antidote to chronic stress, and burnout is a form of chronic stress. Let me explain. In the first quarter of last year, so this time in 2025, I was struggling and on my way, unbeknownst to me, to burnout. In the first quarter of 2025, I was packed. Speaking engagements, coaching programs during our 30-day challenge, which had hundreds upon hundreds of people in it. And unbeknownst to me, by the end of the first quarter of 2025, I would be burnt out to the point of tears. And I've been teaching stress and health for years, not for the majority of my career as a coach. When I taught health, it was always around nutrition science, lifestyle science. And I didn't know until I started teaching stress years later that burnout was a form of chronic stress. I actually used to pride myself in not having stress. Like I taught stress and I understood what stress meant. What I didn't understand well enough, though, is that chronic stress is different from acute stress and that burnout is a form of chronic stress. And so the more I studied stress over the years, I began to understand, number one, all stress isn't created equal. And number two, that all stress does not have to exist. And while we all like to talk about how it is impossible to have a stress-free life, what we don't talk about enough, and what I'm here to teach you today, is that chronic stress can always be avoided and should be eliminated as quickly as possible. Now, at the top of last year, matter of fact, my very first episode in 2025 on my YouTube Live for our Monday morning keynote was me breaking down my framework for what I call radical obedience. I'm going to start this year the exact same way. People who have been in my ecosystem for a while, you have heard me talk about this concept of radical obedience. You have also heard me talk about this concept of chronic stress. Today, I'm going to marry the two together. And I want to talk about how entrepreneurs, leaders, high achievers, how they arrive at burnout. But most importantly, I'm going to teach you why obedience is the antidote to burnout, i.e., obedience is the antidote to chronic stress. So welcome back to Monday Morning Keynote with yours truly, Lisa A. Smith. I help leaders, high achievers, entrepreneurs eliminate chronic stress by mastering their personal health, mastering their perception and emotional intelligence. I'm the founder of something called Clarity. Clarity is where stress meets strategy. What if I told you you were stressed out, not because you had to be, but because you didn't have a strategy? Yep. That's what I specialize in. That's what I'm here to do. I'm super excited to be back here with you guys today. I have my nifty tea just in case things get a little touchy as we go. I'm going to be breaking down about 4 reasons why we end up stressed out and burned out so that you don't repeat that pattern this year. And then I'm going to break down my 4-part framework for radical obedience. That means that it is time to graduate. Many of my followers, y'all are believers. Y'all love God and God love y'all. Y'all are serious about being good people. Y'all are serious about being in service. Y'all are serious about doing the right thing, doing right by people, and all of that stuff. And so you guys also understand the importance of obedience. But I think it's time to graduate for many of you. For many of you, for the past many years, many of you even decades, you have been activating obedience, but you have not been activating radical obedience. And I'm here to tell you, when my life changed is when I decided to graduate from obedience to radical obedience. And I need you guys who are in the midst of trying to accomplish a goal right now, whether it be in your physical health, your emotional, personal health, whether it be in your career, whether it be in your healing journey. I need you guys to lock in today and be prepared to take notes, because today is how you don't fail. Yep. Today, I'm going to give you the 4-part framework for how not to fail on a goal that you're currently pursuing. So here's what I need you guys to know before we get into why we burn out and how that happens. Last year, I experienced probably one of the toughest seasons of burnout I've ever experienced. I had a lot of travel in the first quarter of 2025, a lot of speaking engagements. I was running our 30-day vegan challenge plus our farm to table coaching program. I had team transitions. I had a lot of responsibilities. And then I'm also a coach in somebody else's program. So there was that. And there was a lot going on. And then I had just regular life stuff, relationships, my personal health, all of that stuff that I like to stay on top of. And it was in that season of burnout when I learned that burnout was a form of chronic stress, which was completely eye-opening for me, because before that moment, I would have swore up and down that I was not stressed out, right? I'm like, no, I'm not stressed. I'm just tired and overworked, not realizing that there's a level of extremity that exhaustion can get to that turns into chronic stress and begins to really burn you out. And so now that I understand that, I am now here to teach you guys how to avoid that. And my radical obedience framework is going to help you better understand where your blind spots are so you can correct the issue before it gets out of control. Here's what I now know to be true about stress and burnout. The truth is that most leaders don't have a stress problem. They have an avoidance problem. Most leaders, most high achievers, most entrepreneurs that succumb to burnout don't have a stress problem. They have an avoidance problem. But let me tell you that this cycle of burnout, it goes deeper, because over the last several years, I've actually been through several seasons of burnout. And I'm not proud to say this. This is not a badge of honor. This is not something that I personally see as a rite of passage to success. I don't believe we should burn out our way to success. And so the reason I'm talking about it, number one, is to be transparent. And number two, to help people who aspire to be successful as entrepreneurs, who aspire to be successful as business owners, leaders. Maybe you're even just climbing the corporate ladder, right? A high achiever. I don't want burnout to be something that you don't necessarily go after, but you kind of see it as your season of working so hard to get what you want. I want to be very careful of, I know burnout is not a sexy word, but I know grinding is, right? And there's a lot of synonyms for burnout. And I know the hustle culture is still a thing, although a lot of us are starting to get away from it, ideally, right? So ideally, we want to get away from it, but our habits don't necessarily say that. And so I want to make sure that we don't see overworking and extreme exhaustion as a rite of passage to success, right? I don't think we all need these rock bottom stories to be successful. I don't think we all need to have these seasons where we worked ourselves to the bone, deprived ourselves of sustenance, deprived ourselves of proper rest, compromised our relationships to build our business or make our dream come true. Yes, it requires hard work, but if you swap overworking and exhaustion for radical obedience, you'll be surprised to find that you can get to the same result. Let me explain. High performers typically burn out, in my experience as a high performer and as a full-time entrepreneur, but also in working with high performers and entrepreneurs. they typically burn out for one of four reasons. And I'm going to explain to you why obedience is the antidote to each one of these reasons, right? High performers experience stress differently. That's first of all. And what I mean by that is for some people, stress paralyzes them and shuts them down. So some people, when they experience the typical symptoms of stress, right, where those cortisol levels are elevated, there's an extensive period of pressure and overwhelm. Like emotionally, they feel taxed. They're not sure what to do. They might be in this like gray area or indecisive period where they're afraid to make decisions. They're afraid to advocate for themselves. That's a different type of stress. And this is not a hierarchy or elitist thing, but I want to make it clear that high achievers and leaders, we experience stress differently. Like our stress doesn't cause us to stop. For some people, when they experience stress, they just shut down. Like they just like abandon things, right? And this is not that type of stress that I'm referring to. And that's why I have to specifically call out, like my really driven individuals who don't take no for an answer when it comes to their dreams, when they're really dedicated to pushing through, when they have like all of this endurance, right? We experience stress differently. But the reason we experience chronic stress and the reason we experience burnout, reason number one is because we feel more pressure to appear in control. We feel more pressure to appear in control, right? Which means for a lot of individuals who are used to being independent, who are used to being successful, who are used to being seen by their immediate circle as a leader, who is used to being seen by their immediate circle as somebody who kind of has it all together and knows what they want, right? These type of individuals, the pressure to stay married to an identity that they've outgrown causes stress. I'm going to say that again, real slowly. For high achievers, leaders, really driven individuals, the pressure to stay married to an identity that they've privately outgrown causes stress. That means that by most people who are observing on the outside looking in, they're used to you being a certain type of person with certain type of traits, a certain identity. And when a lot of people see you that way, or when you've been responsible for a lot of people when it comes to like team or leadership, or when you have a big audience, right, there is pressures to stay married to that identity. And if you're not careful, you will outgrow that identity, but then it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel safe to start over. It doesn't feel safe to make adjustments. It doesn't feel safe to pivot. One of the things that I'm doing this year that goes perfectly along with this is just that. Like I'm rebranding in some aspects, and I'm slowly moving away from the type of coach that I've been known to be for the past 10 years. I've been in business since 2015. And it's so funny because literally, I would say, not even 2 weeks ago, my mom called me, right? So I had just had a conversation with my coach about rebranding. And he's like, you do this, you do the plant-based nutrition thing, that's dope. He's like, but we really need to lean into the stress piece, but specifically this part of stress. He's like, this is where you transform me. This is where you help me. And this is what people need now, right? And I was like, I'm with it. I've been 10 years in the game. I have been, helping people with their personal health in the plant-based nutrition space for 10 years, have a ton of receipts. It's been amazing. However, it is time to pivot. I have outgrown that identity, right? Now, not even a couple days later, my mom calls me and she says, Lisa, I was just thinking about this, so I had to call and tell you. She said, no matter what you do, don't ever stop doing the nutrition. I was like, whoa, if y'all think God work fast, y'all can see how quick the devil move. I was like, what? I'm like, wait, what? She's like, that is what got you to where you are today, no matter what. Like, she's like, I know you're into other stuff. You're talking about other stuff, but whatever you do not ever stop doing nutrition. I was like, get off my phone. Girl, bye. Like, can you talk to your mama like that? Girl, bye. I'm like, too late. I'm like, nutrition will still definitely still be a part of our core process of how we help people, because in my belief system, the work that I want to do with helping individuals to eliminate chronic stress, they can't do it without eating clean, right? And so, like, I can't help somebody who's still putting ultra processed food and excitotoxins into their body. Like, I can't get them to make the decisions that I need them to make because they don't have the mental clarity. So I was trying to explain that to her. I'm like, Ma, you're a day late and a dollar short. I'm like, unfortunately, I have to divorce that identity. There's more work that I'm being called to do. And the mission is not to make the world vegan. The mission is to extend the healthy life expectancy for communities of color. And so I'm now going into the next season of that, the next chapter of that. I solved one problem in the first 10 years and I revealed the next higher level problem. And now I'm ready to tackle that. I have been studying it for years. I have the expertise. I see people's blind spots. Like, I see why people can't stick to eating healthy. Like, I see why people can't stick to their goals. Like, I've coached thousands of people to this point, Mom, and I now see what the bigger issue is. And I would be disobedient if I didn't move forward and divorce that identity. So the first reason that high achievers, really driven individuals, entrepreneurs succumb to burnout, stress, and overwhelm is because they feel pressure to stay married to an identity that they've outgrown. And maybe I'm not talking to any of you guys. Maybe I'm just telling you my story. And maybe one or two of you will be able to relate, right? Because this is coming again, all my data, most of my data. I do a lot of studying, but I have so much data from coaching thousands of people in 10 years. That's where most of my data comes from. I'm like, I've noticed a pattern over the years. People want to pivot. These are people who are gifted. These are people who have achieved a lot. These are people who have impacted thousands of lives. I talk to them privately. I'm telling you right now, I talk to them privately. I'm talking about multimillionaires. I talk to them privately. I've coached them privately. And they are feeling the pressure to stay married to an identity they've outgrown. I experienced this. I'm experiencing this now. And then other individuals are experiencing this. And that leads to burnout and overwhelm because of the cognitive dissonance. Like, you have new information that is calling you to move differently, but there's this pressure to stay true to who you've always been, or stay true to who people have become to know you as. So the pressure to stay married to an identity that you've outgrown will inevitably lead to chronic stress and burnout because it is so emotionally taxing. It's so emotionally taxing to run back that program again that you have taught over and over and over again, and your heart just not in it, or your mind's not in it, or you find yourself building resentment towards the students in it because you're like, am I still solving this same problem? Like, it's like new person, same problem, new person, same problem. And when you have more exposure to the problem and you know what their real problem is, you want to run off and solve that now, right? And so you have this cognitive dissonance as a leader and as an entrepreneur of what you should be doing, and that causes stress, okay? Does that make sense? Can I move on to number 2? Let me give you the second reason why high achievers struggle with chronic stress and burnout. It is because when they are not sure what to do, let me put myself in here, I am not outside of this group. When we are not sure of what to do, we decide to do what we've always done, okay? When we are not sure what to do, we decide to do what we've always done. Now, when I say we decide to do what we've always done, the thing that we have always done that causes us to arrive at this place of uncertainty and burnout is typically an unhealthy habit. So when I say we're not sure what to do, so we decide to do what we've always done, 9 times out of 10, though, what we've always done has been an unhealthy and dysfunctional habit. Let me give you some examples. I'll just work more. So just more elbow grease. I'll just work more. I'll just acquiesce, also known as people pleasing. Okay. I'll just avoid the problem. So I'm just not going to look at it. I'm going to do everything else around it, but I'm just going to avoid it. So you got avoidance. Or you have the opposite, which is take control. So that means I have people that are working for me or that are helping me. But when I'm in a space when I don't know what to do, I don't like to feel out of control. So that means I start taking over everybody else's role. And the people aren't moving fast enough for me, or people aren't doing it the way I want it to be done. Or I feel like the problem is so great that nobody can help me solve it, or they're not talented enough, they're not skilled enough to solve it. So I just take control. So when I say when we don't know what to do, we revert to doing what we've always done. The thing that we've always done is typically an unhealthy habit. For me, that was more work. It was like, well, I know one thing, I'm not about to be caught being idle. When idleness, stillness is exactly what I needed in the season. But when things are not, when the numbers ain't adding up, or when things aren't turning out the way I want, it's like, okay, well, this video didn't hit, this podcast didn't hit, this message didn't hit, this speaking engagement didn't get as much as this didn't, so let me just do more. Or for some other people, it's avoidance. This didn't hit, but I don't want to go figure out why. I don't want to look at the feedback. I don't want to ask questions. I don't want to listen back to my own tapes and figure out that's avoidance. Or, things didn't go right. And so now I start dabbling into everybody else's responsibilities and trying to take control, because if something didn't turn out the way I wanted it to turn out, it was collectively a problem. So I'm going to make it a singular solution, right? And so I'm going to take over. I'm going to take control and just shut down and go into my hyper independent mode, right? And take everything over. Or I'm just going to give everybody what they want so nobody will be disappointed with me. And then I am going to people please my way out of this, right? And so it is so, so important to know yourself as a leader. This is why it is so, so important to have self-awareness. This is why it is so, so important to know what your limitations are. I know I am an extreme executor. That means I don't avoid problems. I run into the fire. That means that my work ethic is extremely, extremely high. I move at a very, very high pace. And because of that, typically when I'm feeling pressure coming from stress or impending burnout, I'm going to try and work my way through it. I'm going to try and solve more problems. I am going to try and push my way through, as opposed to doing the opposite of that, which is idling, being still, doing some critical thinking, right? Taking a moment. And so when you don't know what to do, you typically revert back to what you've always done. And it's typically what you've always done that got you to where you are in the first place. Right. And so that's the second reason why high performers typically burn out or stress out, because we have some unhealthy version of us, some limitation that becomes our safety zone, even though it's unsafe to people please, even though we shouldn't be taking control back from our team, even though we shouldn't be practicing avoidance. But that's our natural reflex to stress. Right. So it's a natural reflex to stress. So that's the second reason why high achievers burn out. Let me give you the third reason.
Let me ask you something. How much is stress costing you? Is it costing you your energy, your focus, your health, your peace? See, most of us have been told to manage chronic stress, but here's the truth. Managing chronic stress isn't enough. You deserve to eliminate it at the root. That's why we created the Clarity Lab, where stress meets strategy. The Clarity Lab is a 5-day immersive stress focus group. It's an experience that's designed to help you uncover your biggest stress triggers, reframe how you respond to pressure, and build a personalized strategy for sustainable health and performance. In just 5 days, you will walk away better understanding what's at the root of your stress, what limiting beliefs have been keeping you stuck, and more important, how to start moving with confidence, control, and clarity. And the best part, you won't do it alone. You'll be guided by myself and my team of coaches alongside a powerful community on the journey to do the exact same thing. So, if you're ready to stop paying the price of stress and start living with clarity, join us inside of our next Clarity Lab. Spots are limited, but you can secure yours right now at lisaangelsmith.com/Clarity Lab. That's lisaangelsmith.com/Clarity Lab. Clarity Lab is where stress meets strategy. I'll see you in the lab.
The third reason is we have a reputation for strength and vulnerability doesn't feel safe. So when you are approaching burnout or you are like right in the midst of it, there's a level of vulnerability that you have to activate to get out of it. And if it doesn't feel safe to be vulnerable, you'll just suffer in private. And when you suffer in private, you don't have anyone who is there to help you identify your blind spots. And so when you are really, really overwhelmed, overextended, overworked as a leader, as an entrepreneur, and you have achieved some level, some model of success. This is important. That's why I'm talking to leaders, entrepreneurs, high achievers, because you've achieved some level of success, right? Because all stress is not created equal for all types of people, right? I'm talking about these people who are gifted. We know our gift. We're operating in our gift. This is a different level of burnout, different level of stress, okay? There's a level of vulnerability. Being burnt out and overwhelmed requires you to say, I don't know, right? It requires you to admit that you need help. So I don't know and I need help. Woo, child. Those are two of the most vulnerable sentences you can ever articulate. I don't know and I need help are two of the most vulnerable statements you can make. They are so vulnerable that they are risky as a leader, as a high achiever, like when you are responsible for people, when you are a possibility model for people, I don't know or I need help could be perceived as weakness, not by people who are listening to you, be perceived by you, right? For most people, if they are personally developed, when I don't know and I need help, it's like, oh, courageous. But to you, if you're not healed, I don't know and I need help is interpreted as weakness. You don't know that it's actually courageous to state those things. It's really courageous. I don't know and I need help, right? I remember when I was onboarding some new people to the team last year. And I mean, I'm like straight up, I need help. I'm like, I don't know if it's going to be y'all or somebody else. I don't need you, but I need help, right? Like I can't be so married to somebody that the mission doesn't move forward. So when I say I don't need you, it's not to be mean. It's just to say that the mission is going to move forward regardless. I need help and maybe it'll be you or someone else, but I need help, right? But the mission can't stop. Like our obedience to God can't stop based on an individual. But the courage to show up to a team meeting, to an onboarding meeting and say, I need help, to say, I can't do this by myself. I can no longer do this by myself, or I don't know what to do next is such it's such a vulnerable statement. And depending on your personal growth and your personal health, it will sound like weakness to you. To the right person who understands personal growth and personal development, it sounds like courage. And so if you're a leader or a high achiever who struggles with saying, I don't know or I need help, I challenge you to redefine what courage means, right? And what strength really is, right? And so that's the next reason why we struggle is because somewhere along the way, it hasn't felt safe to be vulnerable. It hasn't felt safe not to have the answers. It hasn't felt safe. And because of that, we continue to portray or perceive as if we know them, as if we have them. And that perpetuates the cycle of exhaustion. I remember many years ago when I finally normalized saying, I don't know, even when I'm teaching. Like I will tell a client, a student in a hot second, no idea. And you keep it moving. Like it is no sweat off my back not to know something. And it feels so good to be on the other side of I don't know is weakness or I don't understand is weakness. Saying I don't know, I don't understand, I don't get it, I don't have the answers, I need help is not weakness. And man, it freed me so much many years ago when I got over that. I'm like, you ask me a question, I'm not about to do you a disservice and fumble around. I don't know. Now let me think about who I know that might know. That's the best I could do for you. right? And I'm so grateful for that. Like, I know what I know, and I'm happy to tell you what I know. Like, that's why I'm specialized. That's why I'm not a generalist. That's why I'm not all over the place. I know what I know, but what I don't know, I'm so proud of not knowing. No idea. Couldn't tell you. No inkling, right? And that's not comfortable for a lot of people. Not knowing is not comfortable for a lot of people. And so that perpetuates stress because we're suffering in private because we don't feel like it's safe to be vulnerable. And the last reason that high achievers succumb to burnout and these cycles of burnout, not just a season, but a cycle where you recover and then you repeat it, which is more dangerous, is because we have a history of extraordinary endurance. We have a history of extraordinary endurance. That means if you are like really a driven person who knows what they want, you're not all indecisive and all over the place trying to, got a million ideas, don't know which one you want to pursue. But when you are like focused and when you are targeted and when you know what you want in life and you achieve a certain level of success that is above average for whatever area you are in, you likely have an extraordinary endurance for things. You have a high tolerance for hard work. You have a high tolerance for waiting. You have a high tolerance for problems and problem solving. And that is tough to reconcile because it's a strength. So what happens when burnout hits and overexhaustion hits is that your strength of endurance becomes a weakness because you then try to endure burnout. Like if you're not self-aware enough, you will allow your extraordinary endurance to cause you to sustain burnout because you think, I know what I'm capable of pushing through and I know I'm capable of endurance. And so because I can push through more longer than the average person, because I mean, let's just be clear, like the average person is very weak. Like the average person can't take much. Like the average person, like when I say can't take much, I mean like the average person can't even hear rejection one time. Like the average person can't, endure not being good at something for long. Like the average person will I don't know how to create content, or I don't know how to sell something, or I don't know how to create an offer, or I'm not good with technology, or I heard no one time, I quit. Like that's the average. And I'm sorry if that's insulting somebody, but I'm telling you right now, the average person cannot endure rejection. The average person cannot endure figuring out something hard like technology. I'm so confused by all this. I just say, forget it, right? Like the average person can't endure being new at something. Like if they don't start good, they can't keep going not being good. It doesn't feel good to not be good. It doesn't feel good to be new, right? The average person can't handle being imperfect, doing something long enough to get good at it. Like the average. So when you are above average in those areas and you can take all of that, when you get to a place of burnout or exhaustion, it can be confusing because you got this endurance muscle that the average person doesn't have. Like the average person quits, gives up, shuts down for all different reasons. Like they're not bad people, right? We all have our history, all have our thing, but the average person can't endure what really high achiever and successful people can endure, right? And that is hard to reconcile that's very hard to reconcile when you're a high achiever because your own endurance muscle is psyching you out. And so you end up in burnout, you end up in extreme exhaustion, you end up emotionally depleted because it almost feels like, am I a failure because I can't go another inch? I ain't got another minute in me. Like, am I, just like confusing, right? And so you have these reasons that we experience burnout, right? So before I get into radical obedience and how it's the solution to burnout, I want you guys to identify what it is for you. If you are in this category of like, I'm gifted, I'm really good at something, I know what I want, I'm clear on that, right? I'm not in this, I don't know my purpose era, but I'm in this season of, I'm very clear, but I am tired, I'm exhausted, or I've experienced burnout, or I could see I'm not in burnout, but I haven't changed enough habits and behaviors to avoid it in the future, right? If this is you, then I want you to identify which one, right? Do you feel pressure to stay married to an identity you've outgrown? Do you have this history of having extraordinary endurance that's psyching you out? Are you one of those people who revert back to unhealthy behaviors when you feel pressure? Unhealthy behaviors like people pleasing or avoidance or taking control? Do you have a reputation of strength and vulnerability just doesn't feel safe? Like you still haven't been able to put together the words, I don't know, or I need help, right? Like you haven't been able to say that out loud and be vulnerable in a space, right? So think about where you may fall and what might be at the root of your experience of stress and burnout. And then let's get into the solution. Let's get ready to break down my framework for radical obedience. I need you guys to understand that radical obedience is the antidote to burnout. Radical obedience is the antidote to chronic stress. But for a lot of us, we just think it's like stress management techniques, and stress management techniques are perfect for acute stress. They're completely useless for chronic stress. Let's definitely get into the framework for radical obedience. So radical obedience is a term that I've coined, trademarked, to signify doing what you're being called to do despite the presence of fear and uncertainty. So again, radical obedience is doing what you're being called to do despite the presence of fear and uncertainty. And lately, like for the past several months, I've been toggling with editing this definition of radical obedience to add one more thing. So radical obedience is doing what God is calling you to do despite the presence of fear, uncertainty, and the absence of capability, right? So, and I'm trying to figure out a more smooth way of saying that. But what I'm saying is sometimes we're not disobedient because of fear. Sometimes we're not disobedient because of uncertainty. Sometimes we're disobedient because we don't know how. Like we don't have the how. And because we don't have the how, we just don't do. And so I have to include that in my definition of radical obedience is doing what you've been called to do despite the presence of fear and uncertainty and the absence of know-how, right? So that means you keep moving forward even though like it's not clear to you how to get from A to B, but you're willing to be at step A, okay? But let me break down what makes obedience radical. For many of us, we're not completely disobedient, but we aren't radically obedient. And so let me give you the 4 tenets of radical obedience. The first thing that makes obedience radical is that your obedience is complete and not partial. Complete and not partial. So I started off today's episode talking about I know my audience and you guys are really good people. You are believers. You try and do good work. You try and do right by people. You try and operate out of integrity. And so as a result of that, like you're not deadbeats, you know what I'm saying? Which means you're not doing all the wrong things. Like a lot of what you're doing is already right. Like you're like, I'm trying to take care of myself as best I can, take care of the people I love as best I can. I'm trying to give back. I try and, tithe. I try and save. I try and treat people right. I'm trying to figure this thing out. I want God to be pleased with me. Like I know my audience, right? And so you guys are not deadbeats and you guys are actually making an effort to do your best. And so that means that you are not completely disobedient, right? That's deadbeat behavior. Okay. So you're not completely disobedient. You're partially obedient. And that's a problem because radical obedience is complete and not partial. Partial obedience is still a form of disobedience. That means I do mostly of what I'm supposed to do, but I am not nailing it like I'm supposed to be. And I know where my gaps are. And so that partial obedience might be part of the reason you're experiencing this chronic stress and this burnout. Like when it's time to move, when it's time to pivot, when it's time to have difficult conversations, make tough decisions, you're struggling a little bit, right? And so you're trying to do most things that you can do within your power, but there are some things that are intimidating to you, and so you're not doing them. And that partial obedience is causing you to have a little friction in life, to have some dissatisfaction in certain areas of your life. So the first thing that makes obedience radical is that it's complete, not partial. It's complete, not partial. Like you get maybe an intuitive pull or what I call a divine download where something needs to happen. Maybe a conversation needs to be had. Maybe something needs to be ironed out with somebody that you love or you trust or that works for you. And you're not addressing it, right? You need to admit something. You need to forgive somebody. You need to heal from something, like, and you're not doing the work, right? And so you're trying to check as many boxes as you can, but there's a box that you're avoiding. And because of that, your obedience is partial. It's not complete. And it is that box that you're avoiding checking that is going to unlock the freedom and the relief that you're looking for. And so I want us to do better at making our obedience complete and not partial. Partial obedience is causing your stress. It's causing your stress. It's just like in our 30-day vegan salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge that we're doing right now, right? Like, it is a vegan challenge. And like, people just want to give up the salt, oil, and sugar, but don't want to give up the meat. People want to give up the meat, but they don't want to give up all the salt, oil, and sugar. Like, and I'm telling you, as your coach, if you want to heal from the thing, like, this is the protocol was put together that's backed by science. And I'm telling you, if you want complete wholeness, then you have to do the complete protocol. It's not like, I'll do most of it, but I need my coffee in the morning. No, we're not drinking caffeine. You can't go 31 days without caffeine. The protocol is meant to be executed completely, not partially, right? And so what's happening for you in some other area of your life, or even in health, is that you're willing to do most of the stuff. You're willing to do most of it. But because your obedience is not complete, you are still in a place of dissatisfaction and overwhelm. So that's number one. Radical obedience is complete, not partial. Number two, I don't know how many of you for whom this is your first time having me teach radical obedience, because maybe you're new to me, maybe you just, arrived in the last couple months to my ecosystem, but this is the motto that I live my life by. If I was to get another tattoo, it would be radical obedience. It's just saved me in so many instances. Especially the second one. I know a lot of you need to hear this. The second thing that makes obedience radical is that it is immediately and not eventually. It is immediately and not eventually. So this is speaking to the pace at which, when you get the divine download, when you get the intuitive pull, when you are, in a conversation and someone says something that hurts your feelings and you don't address it. Disobedience, right? Because you feel it, like it's a gut feeling, right? When you mute yourself and you're not supposed to. When God tells you the next step on your journey, but then you decide to get intimidated by technology and you don't take the step. It's immediately to not eventually. Like, he told you to do something and you're meant to do it right away. You're meant to activate it right away. You're meant to start the journey right away. And for many of us, we have been delaying obedience, not for weeks, not for months, many of us years. Like, I talk to people all the time and I say, well, how long you been wanting to do that? Or how long has that been the thing for you? How long have you been passionate about that? Or how long have you been wanting to exit from this relationship or this role or this job or this ministry that doesn't feel aligned with you anymore? Years. Why haven't you done it? Scared, fearful, don't know what other people are going to think. I'm like, whoa. So when I put this framework together for radical obedience, this just didn't fall out the sky. This is based on me talking to thousands of people. People are moving slow AF. Now, I'm not saying you move so fast that you're reckless. I'm saying you stop putting the assignment on ice for years. What are you supposed to be doing? Why are you avoiding having a conversation with another human who are probably just as scared of the same things in life that you're scared of? Like, why are you avoiding addressing your health? Like, just go to the doctor and find out what it is. Like, all of this avoidance, like, something not right. The moment you felt that thing, that pain, you should have been on it. Because when obedience is delayed, all it does is give room for things to escalate. What could have been addressed at stage 1 becomes a point of no return at stage 5 because of your pace. That means your friendship didn't even have to end. You could have just said what you needed to say the first time they broke your boundaries, and y'all could have still been friends. But because you delayed obedience, not a whole friendship over, not a whole relationship gone. Now you done lost a whole team. Now you done lost the whole business. Now the disease done escalated to a point of no return. Like, delay. Radical obedience is immediately and not eventually. Do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, when God tells you to do it, when your body tells you to do it. Like, we get feelings in our body that we know. Say something, say something, say something. Do something, do something, do something. Like, I remember many years ago, I was walking down the street Such a random way to start a story. Many years ago, I was walking down the street in downtown Detroit, and this person was riding up. It wasn't like a bicycle, but it was like some type of vehicle, like maybe a scooter or something, and they got hit by a car. Like it was raining, right? And you know how, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen like somebody get hit or something, kind of messed up happens. Like if you watch videos of stuff like this happening, you will see people standing around looking. Like you'll see people like, oh snap, like what just happened? Like you'll see people looking. And somebody that's looking had got the feeling to move, have got the feeling to run over to the person and try and help. But they didn't because they was waiting to see what everybody else was going to do. And I remember I was walking down the street with my friend and we saw this person get hit by a car. And I'm like, we got to call 911. We got to run over to them. We got to just talk to them, make sure they're okay. Like we can't ignore this. But when you're in society, sometimes you try and wait to see what everybody else going to do before you decide what you're going to do versus listening to your gut. Like my gut says, help a person in need. But if it doesn't feel like the tribe is thinking the same thing, then a lot of us, we push down whatever immediate gut feeling that we felt because we're waiting to see if what we're thinking is acceptable to other people, right? And radical obedience could save somebody's life, right? And so it is that immediate reaction that a lot of times helps you to avoid regret. It is that immediate reaction that a lot of times helps you to avoid stress and burnout. Like soon as, a team member, or, somebody on your staff does something that's dissatisfactory, address it. Instead of you looking up 3 months from now because you don't know, you're like, I'm non-confrontational. Like, what does that even mean? Like, this needs to be confronted. This is a problem, right? Like, it needs to be addressed because that's how you end up stressed out. Stressed out is like a pile of stuff that ain't been addressed. And so radical obedience is immediate and not eventual. It is do the thing when you feel the thing, take action when you feel the thing, regardless of how you might be perceived by others. So that is number 2. Number 3, the third thing that makes your obedience radical is that it's done with joy and not resistance. When you feel the call to move and when God is telling you what to do, you then have an obligation to proceed with a good attitude, with joyfulness, with gratitude, with like cheerfully, right? So you can't do things begrudgingly. So it is the attitude and the energy and the vibrational frequency with which you show up to the assignment matters immensely. Like immensely. Like when I'm teaching business and I'm teaching my coaches how to create content, I'm like, you can't create content from I'm here to meet my quota standpoint. Like, okay, Lisa told me to do 1 live video a week. I did it. I never look back at it. I don't show up with the right. Like you have to show up with like, this feels right. Like this is the blueprint I committed to following. I trust her. I trust her process. I trust God. I trust his process. Whoever you're getting your blueprint from, like you have to do it with joy and not reluctance. You have to do it with a great attitude. Like you have to serve. I mean, I have somebody on my team who is so amazing. She's like, Lisa, I was just praying for an opportunity to serve. And, I was she was listening to a sermon one day and she was like, and I was praying for an opportunity to serve. And she said, the sermon just went off. And I guess the next thing that was loaded up in my playlist to play was your podcast just naturally came on right after I was listening to this sermon. And she was like, so I knew you were the person I was supposed to serve. And I'm like, that's crazy. And she reached out to me. And what's so crazy though, no, actually, she didn't reach out to me. Or maybe I had just reached out we basically reached out to each other at the same time. Because I remember having like a love fest through voice notes. Like, oh my God, I was just praying for help. And she was like, oh my God, I was just praying for somebody to help. And it was like radical obedience just collided. And it was like fireworks. And it was like, God was pleased, right? And it was like, both of us were super happy. It was so amazing. Like she was happy to serve. I was happy because I had been praying for somebody to help in this capacity specifically. And it was like the perfect marriage. And I was just talking to her the other day, like, I want to do this for you and I want to do this. And she was like, no, I just want to serve. You don't. And I'm just like, man, when you show up with the right attitude and the right vibrational frequency to what you feel God has called you to do, you get blessed beyond measure. You just get blessed beyond measure. like it's the rewards are so infinite when you are radically obedient. Like the rewards are so infinite, right? And so it was such a moment. We just had like what guys call it, like bromance. We had like a girl mance. We had a girl mance and we were just on the voice note. She was like, I was just praying for this. And I was like, me too. And it was just such the collision of radical obedience is just fireworks. And so just showing up with joy and not reluctance to do what you're being called to do is just super dope. And then the final thing that makes obedience radical, as we begin to wrap up this morning, guys, and this one is, I was breaking down this framework to someone like last year. And this is the one, she was like, this is my favorite one. She was like, this one is so biblical. She's like, this is so good. It was so dope. So much she made me say, you know what, this is my favorite one too. When she explained it, I could never explain it how she explained it. But she explained why number 4 was so biblical. And some of you guys will get it, I don't know. But number 4 is your obedience becomes radical when it's done with innocence and not expectation. So what does that mean? That means that most of us don't have an issue with doing what we're supposed to be doing until it's not turning out how we think it's supposed to turn out. Am I right about it? We don't have a problem doing what we're supposed to do as long as it's turning out how we think it's supposed to turn out. Like the moment it's not looking like we think it's supposed to look, we start considering abandonment. We start letting our foot off the gas. We start planning plan B. We start looking at other options. Like obedience is done with innocence and not expectation. That means, okay, I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. Let me give you guys an example that has happened to me. Thank you, God. Multiple times. Multiple times. Okay. So I do this, which you're watching right now. I teach for a living. Okay. And that teaching comes in the form of speaking. It comes in the form of podcasting. It comes in the form of creating linear curriculums for people to follow to get a result. It comes in the form of coaching. Well, coaching and teaching are not the same. Right. So I teach a lot. And let me tell you something that's happened to me so many times. Somebody will apply for one of my programs, apply to work with me, apply for me to be their coach. And they'll be like, dude, I've been watching you on Instagram. I've been listening to your podcast. I have been, following you. My cousin went through your podcast, your program, and she loved you. Like, this has happened to me multiple times. I have been praying for my next step, and then your, commercial came on, or your podcast came on, or you came in my feed. You like, this is what I've been looking for, right? And I'll be like, bet, let's get it. Like, that's just me being radically obedient. So we attracted one another, right? It's all good. It's all good. And they're like, I'm ready. I want you to be my business coach. I want you to be my health coach. I want you to help me with my personal development. Like, help me with my stress and help me to overcome my fear and help me to overcome my people pleasing. And I'm like, I got you, right? Let's get it. Everything's swell. Everything's swell. And I'm like, here's how you need to do what you're trying to do. Here's what I did. Because the only thing I ever teach is what I've done. Okay. So I'm like, here's what I did to have a successful speaking or coaching company. Here's what I did to lose over 65 pounds and keep it off. So here's what I did to lose weight, optimize my health. Here's what I did to get rid of my memory loss and my lapses in my memory that I was having in brain fog. Here's what I did to fill in the blank. Right. And so I teach people to do what I did. Here's who I had to become to leave this long 11-year relationship where I was engaged to be married. Like, I know it's hard, but you can do it too. If you know that's not your person, here's how you do it. So I teach how to do what I did, right? But then something is not quite going the way they want it to go, right? So from the moment we started working together, it's like, you're my person. You're who I've been praying for. You're the answer to what I asked God for this and you showed up. I know for a fact this is where I'm supposed to be. But then they start scoreboard watching. Then they're like, well, wait a minute. I did my first video like you told me to, coach, and crickets. I told people I was selling something and rejection. I got on the scale and I think it's broke because it didn't move. I went to the doctor and I had that tough conversation you told me to have, and they wouldn't listen to me. It didn't work, right? Expectations. And so they're just like, it didn't happen this first time. It didn't work in like 2 minutes. It didn't, like, why am I not like a multi-billion dollar company after 3 months? Like, why? And so the expectations are so inexperienced. Inexperienced expectations will ruin your whole play. Like, inexperienced expectations, because you can't set expectations without experience. How can you set an expectation and you've literally never done it before? So let me get this straight. You've been working a 9 to 5 for 40 years. You finally decide you're going to be bold enough to step out on your own and start your business on year 41. And after 6 months, it don't look like what you think you should look. Now, mind you, you've never done this before. You just set an expectation. You're like, okay, by 6 months, I should be replacing my 9 to 5 income, and I should have at least 2 people that I'm preparing to hire for the team, and I should be on the Forbes top list, and my channel should be this many subscribers. And when it don't look like that after 6 months, you like, forget it. I only got 2 years to retirement. I'll just do that instead. Your expectations are so inexperienced and so uneducated that you are willing to throw away the assignment, i.e. be disobedient, because the whole house of cards was built on your expectation. Ain't that crazy? If your foundation is not obedience, the whole thing will come crumbling down. Because if your foundation is built on expectations and your expectations are not met, hang it up. Hang it up. Let me get this straight. You done invested this money for a coach. You done invested this money to learn a process. You done bought this technology. You done went out and did all of this. But let me get this straight. This whole house was built on expectations? You mean to tell me that you had an expectation of what it should look like by when, and when it doesn't, the whole house is at risk of collapse? You were never doing this out of obedience. It was only based on, so you were not doing this out of innocence. It was only based on expectation. So you didn't come into this thinking, this is what God told me to do, and I'm here to be obedient to that. You came here like, it's true, this is what God told me to do, and I'm willing to do it as long as it looks like what I think it should look like. And by the way, what I think it should look like is not based on any type of experience or expert advice. It's just strictly based on what I want in this season. Child, hang it up. Hang it up. Hang it up. Quickly, hang it up. Turn the lights off, lock the doors, put the closed forever sign on the front window. You ain't gonna make it. Cut them off. They say, turn out the light, click, let it go. This whole thing is at risk. You mean this whole operation is based on your expectations? Child, you never had a chance. Hang it up. Do you think I would be on my way to celebrating 11 years in business if this was based off my expectations? Child, hang it up. So the fourth tenet that makes obedience radical is that you are doing it and you are operating with innocence and not expectation. That means I'm going to do, like, I'm not eating sugar because I think I'm going to be down 50 pounds by Friday. I'm not eating sugar because it doesn't make me feel good. You see the difference? Like, I'm being obedient to not consuming something that doesn't make me feel good. I'm not obedient as long as I'm down 50 pounds by Friday. Like, your expectations is going to ruin the whole operation. I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do, not because I'm trying to buy a favor. Like, I just want a whole bunch of people who owe me in the future. Like, no, you help people, you in service to people because it's the right thing to do. You operate with innocence. Like, if I sat here and told y'all how many people I done blessed, it's not because I'm like, nah, they better stick with me forever. They better pay for all my programs. They better blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's just in the moment God told me this person needs help. Bless them. Go ahead and bless them and just move along. And that's it. Like, there's nothing else to it. But all of this expectation of what you should get in return, like, you weren't never moving with obedience in the first place. What is we doing? Okay, so the antidote to burnout and chronic stress is radical obedience. But radical obedience has a framework, and I just broke it down for you. So, which one is your weak spot? That's where you start. Do you struggle with complete, not partial? Do you struggle with immediately and not eventually? Do you struggle with joy and not reluctance? Do you struggle with innocence, not expectation? When I work with people in private coaching one-on-one, I have a radical obedience assessment. It's a really robust assessment that I give my private coaching clients so I can see where we need to start, because I need to know like which one is the one that has been handicapping your progress. Like, oh, okay, it's number 4. You score lowest in tenant number 4, so your expectations have been ruining your success because you don't keep going when your expectations aren't met. Got it. Or complete, not partial. Oh, you like to ask everything. Okay, got it. Right. So you just like to do stuff while it feel good, but as soon as it get hard or get redundant and repetitive because you like shiny new objects, you don't complete nothing. Right. Like I need to know what area you've been self-sabotaging yourself. Right. Oh, joy, not reluctant. Oh, you got a bad attitude. Like you do stuff begrudgingly. Oh, you hold grudges. Oh, you still be mad. Oh, okay. You need to get that out your spirit. Your vibrational frequency has been ruining your success. Got it. Right. Like you got to know where your weak spot is, because if not, this year is going to just be another year of overwhelm, exhaustion, burnout. Like go do the work. We got to do the work. We got to do the work. Okay. So that's it for me today, y'all. I'll be back here next Monday for another Monday morning keynote with yours truly, helping leaders, entrepreneurs, high achievers to master their perception, master their personal health, and eliminate chronic stress. I am the founder of Clarity, where stress meets strategy. If you are thinking that you got to be stressed all the time, honey, you don't. You just need strategy. You don't need another stress management technique. And so if that's something you need support with, don't be afraid to reach out. You can DM me here on Instagram. Let me know what resonated and how I can support you. Until next Monday, bye y'all.
You tuned in today because, like me, you refuse to let your good become the enemy of your great. You're not settling for good health when optimal is well within reach. If you're ready to go from good to great, visit lisaangelsmith.com to learn more about our plant-based health coaching program, Farm to Table, and our plant-based business accelerator and coaching certification. But before you go, if you enjoyed what you heard today, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast. Until next time, remember, radical obedience is still undefeated. Stay obedient.